In Elden Ring, a lot of enemies are resistant to holy damage but weak to fire damage. So, in this video, I will show you how to make a holy fire spellblade build that utilizes the two damage types to the fullest extent. For our main weapon, we're using the Sacred Relic Sword, with a black knife in the offhand, and a Godslayer's Greatsword for fighting bosses with. In our left hand, we've got the Erdtree Seal for casting spells. The armor of this build really doesn't matter what you use. I've used Malekith's Greaves and the Sanguine Noble Robin Hood just for fashion. As for talismans, we've got the Graven Mass Talisman to make our spells more powerful, the Moon of Noxtella for an extra memory slot, which is important, the Carrion Filigreed Crest, which lowers HP consumed by skills, and this is important because a lot of our skills are very high cost, and the Erdtree's Favor, which lets me wear whatever I want. As for spells, we've got the Frenzied Burst for a long-range sniper attack, the Flame of Frenzy for a bit of AoE, Scouring Black Flame for a bit of Black Flame AoE, Placidue's Ruin for more AoE, Golden Vow for a little bit of a buff, and Black Flame's Protection for a little bit of defense. So once again, the idea of this build is to utilize the Sacred Relic Sword's holy damage and then supplement its weaknesses with fire incantations and the Godslayer's Greatsword's fire damage. The Sacred Relic Sword is the sword you're going to be using on most NPCs and mobs because of its fast attack animations. More particularly, its very powerful Ash of War, which looks like this. It does a lot of damage in a huge AoE area, so it's great for clearing out enemies or for doing chip damage onto bosses with low holy resistance. The Black Knife is useful because of its Ash of War, which looks like this, which will take a chunk out of the boss's max HP. What you want to do is start a fight by using this Ash of War, and then immediately switching to your Godslayer's Greatsword, which has fire damage, which is good for fighting bosses with. Its Ash of War is useful. I wouldn't use it in every situation, but it looks like this. You can also follow up attack to have multiple Ashes of War. Now for a quick rundown of the spells. First, we've got Frenzied Burst, which is good for opening or picking off enemies from far away. The Flame of Frenzy, which is good AoE or for applying madness. Scouring Black Flame, which is good for dealing burn damage or more AoE. Placidue's Ruin, which is just a very powerful spell. Golden Vow for a little bit of buff. And finally, Black Flame's Protection for defense. Now for stat allocation, I'm a level 185, but you could plausibly start this build at a level 150 or even 100 if you pushed it. You're going to really be wanting to put points into Vigor, Dexterity, and Faith. Dexterity and Faith for damage, of course, and then Vigor for a little bit of extra health. You're also going to want to put points into Mind or Endurance. Put points into Mind if you find yourself using spells and Ashes of War a lot, or put points into Endurance if you find yourself melee attacking a lot. And now for some alternatives. Because of the Sacred Relic Sword, this is an endgame build, or for a New Game Plus, but if you want, you can supplement this with a Flame Art Godskin Peeler. This is because it has scaling in both Dexterity and Faith. Although its Ash of War isn't as useful, and it does fire damage instead of holy damage, it still scales with Dex and Faith, and so it works with this build. You shouldn't have to supplement the Godslayer's Greatsword with anything, as it's available very early into the game as long as you can fight a Godskin Apostle off. The Black Knife is more of a later game item, but it's not really necessary for this build because it's only used as an opener for boss fights. And finally, the Erdtree Seal could be replaced with a Godslayer's Seal or the Seal of Frenzied Flame, depending on which spells you tend to use more. I use the Erdtree Seal because it has good all-around faith scaling. Now I'll show you some combat footage to close out the video. Thanks for watching.